Shut the f up, HexJuice, yo.
Just shut the f up, HexJuice. I like that a lot. I think that's so funny. I was thinking about making it my alert. Shut the f up, HexJuice. I love it. It makes me very happy.
Subscribe!
Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and this is kinda late, I believe, so we're gonna be reacting to the abysmal new player experience in Honkai Starbucks, and yeah, we're just gonna see what's up, and take it away, HexJuice, right? Let's go.
And I am here to talk to you about the absolutely abysmal state of the new player experience in Honkai Star Rail.
All right.
As a newer player myself, I have discovered how difficult it can be to get into the game. I have seen a lot of the pitfalls that people fall into at the advice of Guidemakers. Building Dr.Ratio is a complete scam. And I want to talk about how this will continue to affect the community in the future. It is something that I am concerned about as someone who is getting more and more into Honkai Star Rail. I've been really enjoying the game since I got Acheron and stopped using Dr.Ratio. Okay, I hope you guys enjoy.
I will say, so far, what she said, it makes sense. If you had to raise one DPS unit, and that one DPS unit was either going to be Acheron or Dr.Ratio, then yes, new players should invest in Acheron first. I think that is perfectly fine. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with this statement.
I have a lot of thoughts about this, and I know that this might in some ways be a bit of a hot take, but I do it out of all of the love and respect for the community possible. So I hope that you'll hear me out. Experience in Honkai Star Rail is very poor. A lot of y'all forget that people have not all played since day one. In fact, a lot of people who would keep the game alive and refreshing the community would be people who have not played since day one. And this is something that I know is very prevalent because all the time I get comments, I get chat messages. Well, why don't you have this? It's been there since day one. Why don't you have that? It's been there since day one. And people actually, I think actively forget that there are people who could play Honkai Star Rail who have not played since it released. And that's okay. It's all right because realistically, obviously, a lot of us in some form or fashion are refugees from Genshin Impact. The difference with Honkai Star Rail and Genshin are many, but one of the biggest ones is that Honkai Star Rail is significantly more complicated. There is not an elemental system in Honkai Star Rail that pads out damage. Back in my day...
Okay, so far, I have zero comments because I'm the complete opposite. I just got into Genshin, so I'll have no comments when it comes to the comparison between a Honkai Star Rail new player experience and a Genshin Impact new player experience. I will say this though. I think it is absolutely ridiculous to me as a new player playing Genshin after a game that has been out for 3.5 years that I play this game for 1 week and deadass, I don't have a single 5-star. What the... You know what? Irrelevant, so we're just gonna let it cook, right?
I had a relatively well-built Tu Tao. I had a shittily built Xingqiu, and I could explode basically anything. The artifacts were not nearly as important. In Honkai Star Rail, you kind of have to have really good artifacts, and you have to farm relics a lot more seriously. And the problem that I want to bring up about this is that God, relics are worse in this game.
Once again, I can't comment because I don't know Genshin's relic system enough. But from what I've heard from my community is that in Genshin, you are able to use an off-piece, which opens up the flexibility a lot more. As well as the fact that in Genshin, the resin, the new relic thingy, is 3 per 1. But in Honkai Starbucks, it's 10 per 1. But I will say this though. I feel that your relic development as a new player, it is fundamentally, when it comes to that progression, it is linear, right? You're not expected to play Memory of Chaos day one because your team is not up to par, your tracers are not up to par, your relics are not... There's no way you clear Memory of Chaos 12 as a new player. I will say, for majority of the content in story mode, I feel like the boss's difficulty, it is kind of scaled, and you do get a lot of like free relics, and for the most part, they should help you clear at least the bare minimum, the story stages, and help you progress through whatever you're facing. We're not talking about endgame content, we're just talking about like when it comes to terms of progression. And then when it comes to shit like Simulated Universe and Golden Gears, it is perfectly possible to clear them even with completely dogshit relics because your blessings and your curios are like 90% of what you're able to do, right?
Because of the reality that there are so many more stats that can be on relics, than in Genshin. Farming relics in Honkai is miserable. And the other thing is that because relics have a much higher level of importance in Honkaistarrail, it means
Again,
that
I can't make the comparison. I can't make the comparison between this and
more
Genshin.
unpleasant. You have to have relics to do good damage. You cannot really farm relics until at least level 60. You can't farm relics at max efficiently until level 65. And
Okay, to be completely fair, I feel that, yes, you shouldn't be farming relics up until level 65 so that all of your stamina is at a efficient stage, right? Because you get all purple, double gold, and sometimes triple gold at level 65. But that being said, I feel that you should get a little bit of relic farming done, and only for main stats. So once you get your main stats sorted, you could legit just bring them to plus 15, and the main stat alone should be more than enough to carry you through a lot of things. Energy regeneration rope. You don't have that shit, there's a shit ton of resins. You can use it, craft an energy rope. Don't care about substats, slap it on, you're done. HP main stat, 43% HP, or like 43% attack, or like 32% crit rate. All this stuff, they are really, really good. And even if you have complete dog shit substats, I feel like it's more than sufficient to tackle most, if not all, of the earlier content.
And that takes months. And so what that leaves is players who are unable to get damage, especially out of certain characters that really, really, really need high relic quality for months. Because so many players have been playing since day one, and because most people who make guides or make recommendations to players, A, both have played since day one, and B, sort of do have the assumption that everybody else has played since day one. It means that the advice that you are given,
it's pretty fair.
It's not particularly usable. One of the biggest things that I was told was to build Dr.Ratio. In most ways, that makes a lot of sense. Dr.Ratio is a free 5-star. The problem as a new player with Dr.Ratio is multifaceted. So he needs other characters to be good. He needs really good relics to be good, and it takes a very, 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 very long time for players to get to the point where they can actually farm relics that are good enough for him. And it sucks. It sucks for new players because you are telling them to build a character that is not going to be worth it until very late game. In no way is Dr.Ratio free to play friendly.
Okay, I just want to pause here because at this point, she has not brought up the comparison between should a new player invest in Dr.Ratio or should a new player invest in Acheron. Because if that was the main point, then yes, I 100% agree that a new player should invest in Acheron before Dr.Ratio. But that being said, if the point is you shouldn't invest in Dr.Ratio or that Dr.Ratio is not free to play friendly and that new players should not invest in Dr.Ratio, then my question is who else should you invest in if it's not Dr.Ratio and if it's not Acheron because new players didn't prove Acheron? Because you have to have one damage dealer, right? And like unless you're playing DOT like Kafka or Black Swan, you have to give your damage dealers crit rate and crit damage. Every single DPS will face the same issue as Dr.Ratio if you're going to be building them to make them really, really good. It's not like your 4-star Win Danheng or like your 4-star Herta, or like even your 5-star DPS like your Welt or your Himeko or your Yanqing, they will miraculously not require crit rate, crit damage. Like everybody would need all these investments that you give to Dr.Ratio.
Two-play players will have him, but that does not make a character inherently free-to-play friendly. Yes, he can eventually explode like every single thing in the entire game, and that's really fun and cool and poggers. Like the reality is not every character requires that level of investment in order to be usable.
The only, I would say, character that doesn't need insane crit ratio is Jingliu. And the reason why she's just so good for new players, because she gives you 50% crit rate for free, 100 crit rate for free. Every other crit DPS, you need probably like 70, 140 to make them like start to not suck. Or if you're playing DOT units like Kafka, like Black Swan, if you don't want to play DOT units like Kafka and Black Swan, you could raise Queen Iphone, you could raise Sampo, but their performance is really, really bad without the 5-star enablers. So I want to see what is the comparison like. If it's not Dr.Ratio, then who?
My account is level 64, not even 65. I have farmed relics approximately 4 times ever. My Acheron has horrendous stats. They are buffed right now because of Sparkle and some of my blessings. Realistically speaking, my Acheron is not well built, and Acheron does very decent damage and has completely transformed my account. I have been able to clear content that I could not do before. You have to invest in every character, but the level of investment is different. And if you don't actually understand that, and you're typing in your fingers like, well, every character needs investment. Yeah, no shit. But the reality is that some need a lot of investment, And some characters will do double the damage of those characters with like no investment. And recommending characters blindly based on an assumed level of investment means that you are telling people not only like unhelpful and bad information that will actively hurt them, but also make it discouraging to play the game. Because I'll be honest, I was pretty discouraged for a while because I was like, I'm building this ratio. Everybody said this ratio is going to be like really good for my account. And I hate him with the passion of and fury of 1,000 suns, and he does no damage.
Oh yeah, I feel at this point, she has pretty much made the comparison of Dr.Ratio to Acheron. Same level of investment, which one is going to do more damage? I 1000% agree that Acheron, at the same level of investment, is going to deal way more than Dr.Ratio. And not even because of the fact that she has Acheron's signature icon, which is absolutely ridiculous by itself. Not because of the fact that she has Guidemakers, which is one of Acheron's best in sword supports, sustains, because you can apply debuff, Hela, which can apply defense down, and you have Sparkle, which works incredibly well with Acheron, because she, not despite all that, Acheron herself just deals way more damage than Dr.Ratio. But it is not just Dr.Ratio. It is just because she's Acheron. She legit broke the game. Your editor, can you just include the thumbnail over here? Acheron and DPS power creep, right? She just broke the damage scaling so hard. Free to plays, new players, whatever. Anyone that pulls Acheron is gonna feel the difference when it comes to power level compared to, for example, Dr.Ratio. That being said, if you don't use Acheron as the example here, if you were to use any of the 1.x DPS, you're not gonna feel this drastic difference in power because it is Acheron. She just is ridiculous for a unit to be dealing this amount of damage every single turn when you can almost be guaranteed to get a one-turn ultimate. It is not so much that it is a Dr.Ratio problem, but it's more so much Acheron just absolutely bastard. So if you have an E0 S1 Acheron, it's just like you 100% built Acheron over Dr.Ratio. But back then, I would say that when HexJuice first started, she did not even want to pull for Acheron. She didn't even consider the fact that her account will have Acheron. And in that position, if you have a Dr.Ratio or any of the other DPS, then I would say Dr.Ratio is an excellent investment compared to every other DPS except for, in this case, Acheron. So yeah.
It would be nice if the recommendations we made kept in mind an actual regular player's experience. The reality is the vast majority of Twitch viewers have very high level of investment into the game, into the community. A lot of you guys watch a ton of honkaistarrail content creators. It's easy to lose track of the primary player base when the majority of the people that speak in your stream, the majority of other content creators are incredibly sweaty about this game. Not negative, just true. Means that there are people who are left out, and it is going to prevent this game from growing. It is a problem that this community in the guides and like basically everything about this game is relatively unwelcoming to new players. There's a high barrier to entry on a lot of levels. The best thing about the community is that it has incredible content creators. I think that Hoyo Games, especially honkaistarrail, have some of the best, most interesting, hardworking content creators of like any game. And so that brings people in. Tectone is a good entertainer. MrPokke is a good entertainer. Sevi makes great guides. Braxophone
and
is great.
there it is, boys. And there it is, chat. We're good.
There's a lot of really good honkaistarrail content creators, but it is so hard to get into the game when so much is assumed. Have you ever gone into like a math class and it was a math class that like you did not belong in, right? Like you skipped algebra 1 and you went to algebra 2 because they thought you was smart or whatever. And then they're telling you shit and assuming a bunch of shit that you're supposed to know. And you're like, I gotta go back down to algebra 1. Y'all have all these letters in here. I was still on long division, bitch. What is this? That's how it feels getting into honkaistarrail sometimes, where it's just like there's so much that is being assumed that I understand that it's like, God damn, I don't know how to get into this shit. I'm talking about this from a genuine place of like adoration for this community and for its content creators. I love this game. I love the community. I love my community. It is important to note that we are making it very difficult for new players to come in.
Okay, I think this point is quite interesting. It is difficult for new players to come in because honkaistarrail is a very complex game. I feel that if you were to look at, let's say like unit guides, I agree, because a lot of the unit guide nowadays, for example, if I were to do any of like the CN unit analysis, you know, like global certified, savvy plays, all of like their unit guides, I do believe there are some assumptions that you have certain units, you have certain relics to make said units work. But I will say if you want to talk about it from like a complete brand new beginner's guide, your editor, you plug in my beginner's guide over here, like a brand new beginner's guide. I think that's a very different content from compared to like unit analysis. If, like, if you legit did as a brand new player, that's the kind of guide you should be watching. You should not be watching like Dr.Ratio guide or like Acheron guide. I think that would not be as valuable compared to like a legit data as a brand new beginner's guide. And I feel that for a beginner's guide, the game itself, it explains a lot of the things to you. The progression is quite linear. It is not very complicated. You play through the story, you grind through your Trailblazer levels, you farm relics at specific points, tracers, ascension, all that kind of stuff. And then whenever you're ready to tackle the endgame content, you're pretty much good to go. And even if you don't have set relics for the endgame content, there's a lot of other different things you can play before you reach set endgame content. For example, Simulator Universe, Gold and Gears, Swarm Disaster, they are considered endgame content that is not necessarily tied to relics, because blessings and cures, they take up a very, very big portion as to whether can you succeed. I feel like the point is getting a little bit muddy as to a new player experience and how difficult it is to enter into honkaistarrail. But I feel like the main point might just be, should you invest in Dr.Ratio as compared to other DPS units? Because if that was the main point, then there's only two answers, right? Number one, if you have Acheron, no, invest in Acheron. That should be your only DPS you invest in, and then just use her to power through every single content. But if you don't have Acheron, then Dr.Ratio is pretty much your next best bet. You save your pools, you save your Stellar Jades, and you pool for your next limited sustain, which is going to be Adventurine, which is still going to be really, really good for a new player's account, because if you can sustain way better, it makes your experience infinitely better compared to if you were trying to sustain with like March 7th or Natasha, right? So there's really two ways. You either pull for an insane DPS like Acheron, or you pull for like an insanely good sustain like Adventurine, and both of them, it should be good enough to get through the endgame. So for example, Adventurine plus Dr.Ratio, you really think this comp is not gonna help you power through? I think it's gonna be excellent, right? Or if you don't want to pull for Adventurine, you pull for Acheron. And right now, if for example, if you have like HexJuice team of Acheron, Sparkle, Pella, and Gallagher, it's gonna be excellent. You're gonna clear content and you just allocate your Stellar Jades accordingly.
This is sort of a ooh. Okay, surely this just one shots, right? It's the easiest one shot known to man. Oh, got one of them. I want to start talking about like theory crafting stuff and like guide making stuff. Like not making guides specifically, but I want to start making certain parts of my content about what the actual experience of playing the game with a character is. And I want there to be new players, because if the game stops bringing people in, it's going to be hard for the community to survive. Maybe not this year and maybe not next year, but as time goes on, more new player-friendly games will take over, and this game will sort of atrophy into being a game that is primarily full of sweaties and people who have who won't leave. And I will say that respectfully, what does that remind you of? A game of people who are maybe a bit too dedicated and sweaty and have been playing for a million years and just won't stop or acknowledge problems. What community? That does sound like another community that we know of to me. And I don't want this community to be like that community.
I will say, for a gacha game, 99% of gacha games will have this problem, where if you start a gacha game 1 year late, 2 year late, 3 year late, and you miss everything, you're definitely gonna have a harder experience. And it's not a matter of like whether you can fix this. It is just a fundamental issue. That's how the gacha game system works. It is true progression with either your wallet or your time. And if you miss out on a time, which is like, for example, day one players, then you either compensate it with your wallet, or you're just gonna have a more difficult time. It is what it is, right? As much as we would like to make honkaistarrail a welcoming game for every player that can start at any point of time, I would say it is very, very difficult to do this. And not just for honkaistarrail, but for pretty much any gacha game in the market.
I don't want it to be like honkaistarrail could never when Zenless Zone Zero comes out or something, you know? When the game only gets more and more difficult to get into, when the community only gets more and more sweaty and less understanding of the new player experience, that is going to continuously, over time, hurt the longevity of the game. So that's my point. I don't know.
Okay, wait, before this move on, I do want to say, I legit don't think the honkaistarrail community is very, very sweaty. One example, I'm not sure if you guys have seen TikTok honkaistarrail content. Holy shit, it is insane. It is absolutely, genuinely, respectfully insane. And it's like, it has like hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok. And it's like, I don't even want to say it, but it's like, it's absolutely insane. And I would dare say 99% of the honkaistarrail community, they couldn't give a flying about like zero cycles or like this kind of like legit like sweaty that they just want to clear the game, play Memory of Chaos 12. Maybe they don't even want to 3-star it. So I would say it is not super sweaty, but I will say for a lot of streamers, the Twitch community itself that are streaming Honkai Star Rail, I would say quite a lot of us, we are considered like, okay, you know what? Sweaty, right? For myself, we try to... I mean, I feel like I'm not that sweaty now. Okay, like compared to when I first started streaming Honkai Star Rail, I was a lot more sweaty. I was legit like dead-ass, like grinding out with zero cycles and nobody's business. But for now, we just chill. We just do a little bit of a, goofy R reacts. We do more goofy R content compared to like calculation, mathematics, action value, and like I feel like I'm not that sweaty now, but I can definitely see where HexJuice is coming from. Because like, if you are just gonna be comparing this streamer category of Honkai Star Rail players, I would say it is very different from majority of the player base in Honkai Star Rail. So yeah.
Oh, if this was like relatable or helpful, and I'm sure a lot of people in the comments are gonna be like, we don't need to cater to every kind of player, but it's like we should cater to like maybe more players though.
We should try. We should definitely try.
Might like the game, but maybe are turned away when their ratio that they were told was going to save our account is actually horrendous to play and does no damage until you're like level 70 and have been farming relics like every.
And when you compare this with another DPS like Acheron, right? It is always about comparison. You either compare him with Acheron, then obviously Acheron is going to win, or you compare him with every other 4-star DPS you're going to have.
You know what I mean? That's not very encouraging. So that's the point. Goodbye, YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe.
Alright, so that's pretty much the end of the HexJuice video, and I feel like I've really much said everything I need to say. Okay, first of all, I legit don't think this is nuclear drama. It is just a person speaking their opinions about their experience in Honkai Star Rail and how it's like to, for example, get Acheron and then compare Acheron's performance with Dr.Ratio, and Acheron is way better. True potential. I feel like if you're a guide maker and like if you weren't recommending Acheron as like an 11 out of 10 pool, such as myself, when I've made the Acheron pooling opinion like way back in the days, and people were legit doubting me. It is what it is, right? But yeah, she's not entirely wrong. Acheron legit changes everything to a new player's account. Like having Acheron and not having Acheron on a new player's account is like night and day. She's not gonna be making this statement when she compares Dr.Ratio with any of the other DPS that she could have gotten. So yeah, that is pretty much it.
Contest essay incoming since you're not reading chat. She asked Guidemakers on Twitter if she should pull Acheron or Jingliu. Most people told her Jingliu and to just focus on Ratio because he is better for F2P than Acheron. She ignored them and pulled Acheron, who outperforms even well-built DPS on shit builds which she experienced firsthand.
Okay, I feel like that adds a lot of context to the situation.
My name is HexJuice, and I am back at it again with another video being apparently terribly controversial. I didn't really know
Let's speed this up a little bit.
how much people weren't going to like my last video. So this is sort of a follow-up of the video I made yesterday. Okay. I want to take this time to clarify some points that I had because I don't think I said them very well. I want to clarify what my actual issue is because it kind of doesn't get to that until the very end of the video of my first video, which wasn't super great on my part, my bad. And I want to address the fact that my point is that sometimes the community makes it a little bit hard to join the game when the game is already a gacha game, which is realistically sometimes a little difficult. So I hope you enjoy, like...
You know what's a community that would not make it hard? At Pokke's Village at discord.g4 says Pokke should have a very excellent community talking about Honkai Star Rail on a daily basis with excellent helpers, excellent mods, excellent villagers. They will be very welcoming to any new players that are playing Honkai Star Rail, right? Join discord.g4 says Pokke's Village. Insane.
Also, since all of you disliked how much I said I don't like Dr.Ratio, I will now be committing fully to the bit that Dr.Ratio is the worst character in the game, worse than Arlen and also Misha, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. I'll be spreading this misinformation on the internet forever. Subscribe!
Yeah, we're gonna get my lawyer to get her to change this subscribe, but yeah.
I think that there is overall an issue with the way that we give advice in this community, and I did make a video about that, and because I was a bit of a coward in saying what I was trying to say, it did not translate well what my actual point was. My point is, the advice that a lot of Guidemakers give is not usable for newer players, lower investment players, or like sometimes even free to play depending, because...
I want to see if she brings up an example where a guide maker says specifically like a tip and it is just completely out of touch with a new player.
Hopefully would have been fine for my account, but would it have been better than Acheron? Absolutely in no way. Would Jingliu have been better for my account than Acheron on any planet because Acheron is broken? Jingliu is a replaceable unit. Dr.Ratio, additionally, is a replaceable unit. The entirety of Dr.Ratio's utility is just the ability to do big damage. Dr.Ratio does not add anything to your team that another damage dealer could not add. Unless you just really like him, or if you have Topaz and Numby, that can be great too. But Dr.Ratio just does not add utility like someone like Acheron, like someone like Kafka does at all. How the hell are you going to play Dr.Ratio if you got him? If you're not a day one player, if you're a newer player especially, this community has a very, very bad habit of acting like there's no such thing as a new player. All of the players in this game, because most of you are day one players, a vast majority of people have played since day one because you are Genshin refugees. Y'all forget that there are people who might want to come into the game.
Not me. I am proud to say I've never touched Genshin for the past 3.5 years until recently. So
and like have a more fun time. People give recommendations for who to pull for based on the highest ceiling of damage possible, which is also why a lot of people said that Acheron was not a good pull, because the highest...
I want to know who the is like saying like Acheron is not a good pull based on the highest damage possible. Which Guidemaker is it? Is it EO? Is it EO? Is it EO again with his Dual-DPS? Oh my god. Who? Okay, just kidding. I know it's not EO, but like, who is even saying this?
Ceiling of damage possible for Acheron, you do kind of need her Eidolons, and you do kind of need her Light Cone for the highest ceiling of damage. How many of y'all feel the need to do more than 1 million damage? No one needs that. But you can do more than enough damage with Acheron without her Light Cone and without her team. It's much nicer with her Light Cone.
Absolutely.
I will say that I personally think that Acheron's Light Cone is a lot more of a quality of life buff than an actual, like, more...
Fun fact, Acheron's damage, the ultimate damage itself is almost unchanged when you compare her signature Light Cone with Good Night and Sleep Well. The main thing with the signature Light Cone is because of that one additional stack, and you could potentially pull off an entire ultimate faster. When you hit that threshold, it makes Acheron's Light Cone significantly better than any of the other Light Cones. Then again, you're comparing an S1 Light Cone to S5 Good Night and Sleep Well. And if you're a new player, there's probably no way you even get an S1, let alone S5 Good Night and Sleep Well. If you do manage to get ridiculously lucky to get Acheron's signature Light Cone, it's gonna feel a lot better than the next alternative. Because I'm assuming that even new players, that they're not even gonna get a single copy of Good Night Sleep Well.
Damage buff for her. Recommending characters based on overall usability is very, very valuable compared to on the highest ceiling, because a lot of the Acheron recommendations were based on the highest, getting the highest possible damage out of her. You get more than enough damage out of her and all of the same utility. E0, no Light Cone. You get very more utility than most other characters and more damage than most other characters in the game. So this was the team that I was using previously.
Every other DPS in the game, E0, S0, E0, S1, E2, S1, E6, S1, E6, S5, no character comes close to what Acheron is going to be dealing. So it is what it is.
I'm going to be using Dr.Ratio anymore because I think Dot is more fun. But this was the team that I was running on Ratio. This was not consistent. Ratio is high risk, high reward. But the problem was that it's not consistent. I could just simply use these two teams and have way more fun and think way less and do more damage and have sexy women. Your cost to benefit ratio is much better on a team like this or a team like this than the cost to benefit ratio on a team like this. And then when I didn't have to use this second team anymore and I could...
Check, can we get an F for the Dual-DPS? Shout out to my man EO. Never let you go, this one stays.
And then when I didn't have to use this second team anymore and I could use this team, I started flying through MOC. I started absolutely flying suddenly through MOCs that I could not do. I literally just went to the Acheron team and stopped using the Ratio team, a team that needs lower investment and needs lower requirements from the other units in the game. I 3-starred all of these. I don't think I've really done this yet because I get sick of doing this monkey shit. And then, I still can't do this one. I'm just gonna be real. I hate this lady. This lady is such a bitch. I also have completed
whoa, calm down, my man.
pretty impressive amount of pure fiction just from having the characters that I have. Look at this. This is my level 64 account.
Yeah,
this is just with my Acheron and Pokke team. I just said, Dr.Ratio. Yes, Ratio can be good if you have all the right stuff, or you could just recommend characters that are lower investment and give ease to the game. Acheron can do everything in the game, though. With subpar units and subpar stats, Acheron can do basically everything. My point is, I am not trying to hate on Guidemakers. I think Guidemakers are great. There is a difficulty in the community of being welcoming to new players if we gatekeep a community by secret hidden knowledge, or by not calibrating information that we give people to all levels of game. Over time, that is going to mean that less people join, which means we get less cool new content creators. We are going to get less new players who are interested in the game. Communities that don't allow new people to...
Okay, before I legitimately have... Who the hell is HexJuice talking about? Like, which Guidemaker is out here saying shit like Acheron is not like free-to-play friendly and like you... Like, I feel like this point she's making is very different from the point that she made in the previous video, which is Dr.Ratio sucks and you shouldn't invest in Dr.Ratio. Because that video was made in comparison to Acheron.
To enjoy it and get into it and have a fun time, they get shittier and shittier and shittier, and then nobody wants to join it. I think I would like it if when we say
I'm about to unleash my true potential.
Link check this tweet for more context.
Guidemakers but HSR geniuses, please. Oh, Please help. My chat is full of indented skulls. I must choose my next damage character wisely. Please help me to choose between Acheron and Jingliu. I've guaranteed 50-50. These are my characters. I'm gonna grab water. Before chat gets too crazy, I do want to remind everyone, I would not have chat saying shit like, oh my god, EOS is like the R word or whatever. This is a safe space. This is a neutral space. Hope that we can all get into agreement here. This is not about causing drama, but we're just kind of seeing the context, right? So hope that we can all stay cordial, because at the end of the day, it's a gacha game, right? There's no, so it is what it is. I'm not a drama starter, genuinely. Cool. Anyways, as biased as I am to both Jingliu and Acheron, I recommend you to snag Jingliu. You could make Acheron work, but to be honest, you can't have Kafka already. Guoba certified. I'll recommend Jingliu in case for Ice Week coverage. Give her Bronya and Pella to go triple DOT Kafka, 2 DOT Asta until you get Runmei or Kafka. Jingliu should be easier to build. Okay, I will say this though. He is absolutely right when it comes to this. Jingliu is easier to build than Acheron. I would say this is also valid. A shitty Acheron will still end up dealing ridiculous damage compared to a shitty Jingliu. Braxophone. Okay, at this point, Braxophone just, he's a sim for Jingliu, so I don't even think he's being serious here. So yeah. Yeah, he's good. He's good. You could accomplish with Acheron. You could do better with Acheron than Jingliu. And there's insta kills here. Yeah. Okay, I think Maya is absolutely right. I feel like that tweet definitely adds a lot of context, because now it is not so much of Dr.Ratio versus Acheron. Now it is more like, should you pull for Acheron or Jingliu?
What it means for a character to be good. Recommending characters based on their usability and not the highest ceiling of what they can do is way better for the community. And making guides easier to understand by not assuming massive amounts of knowledge is better for the community. New players don't know everything, and when they load up a guide and they're talking about all these terms and shit that ain't nobody know about, it's hard. And I guess I try to talk around it because I don't want to call out Guidemakers. I think Guidemakers are cool. But I think when Guidemakers primarily stream on Twitch and only know the community, insofar as those who are on Twitch, which are realistically the most engaged players in the community, right? The reality is that like you're like, you need to explain in like stupid ass language. You need to explain some things like a dipshit.
I'll keep it a buck. I feel like if you don't have a basic understanding of the game, you probably shouldn't watch my channel. I'll just keep it a buck. Like, even though like my CN unit analysis is like, I would say I keep it very, very relatable. I never ever require, but I kind of go into a lot more like interesting stuff that is not that bare bones. So huge shout out to the Oilers. But I would say though, there's definitely guide makers that make excellent bare bones guides. Like, even a dummy can understand like what the f is going on. Like, if it's your first goddamn day playing Honkai Starbucks, there's a lot of guide makers that make excellent guides that anyone can understand. Like, they legit break down what the basic does, what the f this skill do, talent, ultimate, like every single thing. Like, not me. I'm not gonna read all that. I'm just gonna boom, this is the kit. Here's what you do. XYZ. Insane. This changes everything. Use this. This is what that's basic. So yeah, I will admit.
You need to know everything about the game when you start. What is nice is if guide makers help build information. For example, if you are giving a guide on Dr.Ratio, it would be helpful to say, if you're an early game player, Dr.Ratio might be difficult for you to use. If you do not have 2 of these 5 units, Dr.Ratio is going to be really difficult. If you are incapable of getting these relics, Dr.Ratio is not going to be very helpful for you. If you would like to still use Dr.Ratio, understand, this mechanic.
Okay, so to be fair, okay, I want to point on this point about the relics thing. Any DPS that doesn't have good relics is not going to perform well. I feel like this is that you don't really need to say this, because like you kind of have to get it. But when you want to compare like Acheron without good relics with any other DPS, there's not so much of a unit guide. There's just so much of like a, I guess at this point it's more like a pooling value or like a tier list kind of guide. Whereas for like, if everybody has like the same amount of investments, who is going to come out on top? And the answer is going to be Acheron every single time, right?
It's going to be very helpful for you. If you would like to still use Dr.Ratio, understand, this mechanic. So like having things like that in every, like especially when you're recommending characters.
I would say for Dr.Ratio's mechanic, it is like about as simple as it gets. Or maybe I'm just being unreadable again. If that, I'm sorry. You use your ultimate to hit an enemy, and if any unit hit the enemy, you shoot in a follow-up attack. I would say a lot of other units have way more complex tickets than Dr.Ratio. If you're a Scylla user, if you don't proc Resurgence, when do you proc Resurgence? Do you know that your Resurgence maintains the buffs? Do you know how to stack on 4 turns consecutively with your skill into a kill, into ultimate into a kill? Or like for Jing Yuan, how do you time your Lightning Lord so that your Lightning Lord don't go before he goes and waste off his hits on the minions? Speed tuning. all the kind of stuff, or maybe I'm just being unreadable. So yeah.
You're doing like those, like we're breaking down all 4 of the banners, right? And who you should wish for. It would be helpful to accommodate people who are lower on the scale of having the game done. Putting yourself in a new player's perspective. Guidemakers should take into account the resource dump that is necessary to build a character to a usable stage and tell people it's not worth building until endgame or midgame. That's that part. And I think that also, not just Guidemakers, but the community should do this as well. Right now, the main thing that's my account, I don't have fuel and I don't have resin. So I can't do with my account right now. I could rerun Sim Universe and not get the relics from it. And I can do MOC shit that I can't do. But like I can't actually farm anything because I have no relics and I have no fuel and I have no resin. I can't do.
Okay, that's not something they can fix though. Like that is more like you either swipe or you just sit there and like you can't really fix that. Like no Guidemakers can make you have more stamina. Like to be completely fair here, it is like everyone will have this problem.
Do anything. But you know what would have been really nice is if I had been told that Dr.Ratio was not going to be super good for my account until I had a Pella and I shouldn't probably build him when I started. But that's not what I was told. And so I have a whole extra team that never ever performed very well for me because I didn't have the units until just now. I just got Pella in the last couple days. So I have wasted materials on specifically Ratio and Topaz for weeks. And it has meant that I am now...
Okay, I want to bring up this very, very interesting point here. I think this is when she cooked. I think she made sense here. HexJuice was under the misconception that Dr.Ratio is gonna clap cheeks when you pair him up with Topaz because, you know, double follow-up and all that kind of stuff. Ratio Topaz, I'm not saying that they suck. They do not perform as well, or just in general, like this kind of like double follow-up teams, they do not perform as well compared to hyper carry because you need the enemy to have both fire and imaginary weakness. If they don't have this, the other unit is just pretty much gonna be dealing negative damage. Chat, do you know what's the biggest benefit to Dr.Ratio and Topaz? It is not like they do like 1 billion damage with like their follow-up attacks and their hunt units or like they deal single target nuke. It is their toughness bar damage because their frequency of attacks, they are so high. If one of these units, even if it's like off element and you have run mace, res pen, if you can't break the toughness bar, you miss out a very significant portion of their benefits, which is you break the enemies incredibly fast. Which is why in Last Memory of Chaos, when you fight against the meme, Dr.Ratio and Topaz were absolutely clapping cheeks because the motherfucker had both fire and imaginary weakness. Okay, I don't want to use this video to take a shit on Dual-DPS, but like if you want to build Dual-DPS, you know what's one of the most difficult things for a new player to build? It's crit. Now, not only do you need to build good crit ratio on Dr.Ratio, you need to have good crit ratio on Topaz on top of Dr.Ratio. Yep, I can completely understand why she didn't have a good experience here.
Now stalled on my account because I was using my fuel and all my shit for that. I guess it is like I will play it no matter what. I'll play this game regardless until a better game comes out. But mocking new players, making people sound like they're idiots, giving players bad advice.
Okay. Deadass. If like if people would mocking new players, then that's a completely it's just completely justified.
This its important info to this video link.
Right, let me finish
set your accounts back and make the game feel less fun and satisfying. It is a bad move long term. I want this community to succeed long term.
Yep.
And therefore, I am bringing up a problem that is more apparent to me because of my situation than people who have been playing the game since release or near since release. And if you can disagree with my specific takes on specific characters, I have no desire to ever talk about Dr.Ratio again. I wish I could delete it from my account. The point is just simply, if you respect people's intelligence, while additionally, you also understand that people don't know things that they don't know, we can have a better game and a better community, and we can bring more people in. If we don't do that, you're gatekeeping, and the community's gonna suffer. That's the point.
Yeah, I 100% agree, but I'm not aware of like Guidemakers mocking HexJuice for being new, or like gatekeeping content, or like not telling HexJuice, oh my god, you know, you shouldn't pull Acheron because she's worse, right? Or like spreading misinformation purposely to break her account. I don't think that people are doing this, but if it is, then it's completely justified. So it is what it is. All right, very, very interesting. This is my first time ever doing a back-to-back react. If you guys want to engage in any further discussions, feel free to hop on to the comment section on my Discord at discord.gg/Pokke videos. We're very active commenting on Honkai on a daily basis. Rest assured, my community is not gonna ostracize you. It's not gonna gatekeep you. It's not gonna mock you, especially if you're a new player. Because if they do that, then I will crush their balls, right? So it is what it is. If you want to engage in my streams, they're gonna be Twitter.com/MrPokke. It's on YouTube.com/MrPokke. I'll be streaming every single day. Other on Discord, right? So that's all I have today. All the best for your, as of this point, Acheron pools. Hopefully still put for Acheron, if especially a new player. Or if not, Adventure pools. Then I'll see you guys next time. Take care.